Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Off the Sideline podcast with Jackson and nobody else. It's just me here. Kyle, of course, is in London watching a soccer game. I think his team won, too, so that's cool for Kyle. But in the meantime, the show goes on. I'm going to do kind of a shorter version of what we do every week on midnights at Eastern, which is go through all the games, give my kind of first reactions here. So yeah, let's just get into it, starting off as always with the Sunday Night Football game. I will mention I won't have the banners on the bottom of the screen like we usually do, but I will put timestamps in, so if you want to skip to your team or whatever, go ahead. I think I'm going to do some a World Series Game 1 and 2 recap as well. Put that at the end of the video for those who don't care about baseball, but yeah, stay tuned for that if you want to. But yeah, this Sunday night game, I mean, listen, it ended up getting close. I think San Francisco for a while felt like, hey, this is our get-right game. We made it work. This is exactly what we wanted. The garbage time allegations, the Cowboys aren't going to beat, Dak Prescott's not going to beat these stat padding allegations, but I never really view it that way. I kind of tried to make this take during the my video about the Buccaneers and the Ravens, but it got all muddled. But listen, the 49ers are still trying out there. They're not, just letting them score. It's still a game, and as we saw, it became a game. I think you have to give credit to Prescott for being able to make those plays later on, but at the same time, I mean, you have to, at a certain point, look at it and say, he needs to stop making those mistakes. I mean, that interception attempt basically is what it was. That play where he threw it directly to Fred Warner, and then there was the player behind him was also a 49ers player who would have intercepted it. Luckily, it was tipped by Warner. Can't blame him. If he's trying to make a play, right? Usually tip passes are a good thing. He didn't know his teammate was the guy right behind him who could have caught it. So, yeah, a bit of a, unfortunate break for San Francisco, but they got the ball right back anyway, so it didn't really matter. But, those plays are an issue. Give credit to Dallas for fighting back, but their defense still isn't very good. It's just a tough spot. 49ers pick up a big win, right? Move up to 500, tied for the division lead, and again, weird division going on there. But George Kittle had a great day, which I have to say, for George Kittle, you gotta have a great day. If you're gonna cause this whole National Tight End Day madness that's happened, where every single time, I'm just gonna say about National Tight End Day, I don't mind the holiday. I think it's fine. Do we need to, every single time a tight end touches the football, bring up that it is National Tight End Day? Can we just say, hey, it's National Tight End Day, have it happen a couple of times? It's too much. It's too much. It drives me nuts. I don't know. But hey, because I believe Kittle was the one who started it, if I remember correctly. So if you're going to be the guy who starts it, you got to perform on National Tight End Day. He had a huge day, over 100 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, I mean, definitely good stuff there by Kittle. Good stuff by the 49ers. And Brock Purdy, who I thought it's crazy that, I mean, the Cowboys led at halftime and then just got so off the rails. The 49ers scoring 24 unanswered points. But I thought Purdy had a real nice bounce back game. Kind of started a little bit slow, but then was able to do some nice things. So yeah, again, good stuff here by the 49ers. Next up, let's talk some balls, right? The Washington Commanders finding a way against the Chicago Bears in what was setting up to be quite the disappointment for Chicago, or I guess for both teams. It was set up to be quite the disappointment, but quite the disappointment for Washington. They had kind of led all game, but they weren't able to score any touchdowns until the literal last second of the game. They had 12 points all on field goals. They did have a touchdown get called back, but unable to really convert in the red zone. And this has been a thing we've seen a couple times from Washington. I also didn't love a couple decisions that Dan Quinn made. He did decide to not go for it on a 4th and 3 in Chicago territory, instead punted late in the game. This allowed Chicago to have enough time where Caleb Williams, listen, his numbers weren't great, and he wasn't great in this game. He really wasn't. Did make a couple of key plays at the end, though. Those last two drives, one of them resulted in a goal line fumble, one of them resulted in a go-ahead touchdown. He made some real plays in those two drives. So while it wasn't a great Caleb Williams performance, he did show some flashes. Jaden Daniels continues to just be awesome. I mean, obviously the Hail Mary is very much, I mean, you threw one up, it worked out. He didn't even get it in the end zone. It is what it is. Obviously, there's luck involved there. But even without that, and this wasn't his best statistical day, but against a really good Bears defense, again, they have to do a better job at converting in the red zone, converting once they get into field goal range, but still some good stuff. They also had a missed field goal, which could have prevented them from even having to try that Hail Mary, which was a thing as well. But yeah, the one thing I also have to say is the Matt Eberflus thing. Not a great decision. I didn't love handing it off to your backup center, who I get has played some goal line fullback so far this season, but he only has 18 snaps on the year, only 2 snaps prior to this year. He's barely been out there. You're putting the ball in his hands in one of the biggest spots in the game. It was the biggest spot in the game up until that point. That's a lot of pressure to put on a guy. Obviously, it's hindsight. It's 2020. I wouldn't be saying it if it scored. I wouldn't have thought about it. So, but in hindsight, probably a mistake right there. But yeah, a huge win for Washington. I still think the Bears are fine. Their defense is still really good. They do need some more consistent stuff out of their entire offense. The receiving core needs to do better. The offensive line needs to do better, although I think is often a bit of a scapegoat. But yeah, as a whole, huge win for Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders here. Next up is the Cardinals-Dolphins game. Again, one of the wilder games of the week, and there was a lot of crazy games. I mean, this got very interesting. This was a very good week, I thought. Kyle took a bad week to leave the country, I think. But, I mean, yeah, I think my first thought was, man, is this Dolphins offense just work with Tua out there? Like, say what you want about him, and I've even said, like, look at the offensive pieces he has. They have all, this, but, like, at the end of the day, he really is the engine that makes this whole thing work. They are just not the same team without him there. So, yeah, I mean, clearly, this is for Tua and on. They're having a big day, a big win for them, although there was the, fumbled snap that kind of allowed Arizona to get back into this, because Miami was up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and Arizona, again, the Arizona find a ways do it again. I mean, they keep finding ways to win. James Conner didn't have much of a rushing game. He wasn't able to do a ton, but this was the Kyler Murray show. And again, you get Kyler Murray when he's on, and that's what happens. He was on. He was making plays. Trey McBride of over 100 yards. Marvin Harrison Jr. was probably even the better receiving option, even if he had less yards, because of some of the difficult catches he made. McBride made a lot of tough catches, too. Both of those guys were awesome. It was mostly just those 2 guys. I mean, Michael Wilson had 31 yards, and no one else had more than 20. So James Conner was 4th with 16. So it really was Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray making things happen, and they were able to pull off the upset. So yeah, again, huge win for them. Next up, let's go to Jets-Patriots. Again, it's going to be a bit more of a faster-paced podcast than you're used to, probably. Because, usually Kyle and I can bounce things off and, talk to each other about that stuff. But just giving my quick thoughts here. Didn't want to leave you without a podcast this week. So, doing it on my own here. Jets-Patriots. I mean, I'm disappointed Kyle wasn't here, because I'm sure he would have. I'm sure he's very pumped up about how this game worked. I don't know if he watched it or if he just heard about it. But either way, I mean, yeah. So it was weird. This was already a failure for the Jets. This game, right? Because the Patriots have looked poor in their. They've lost 6 straight games after winning Week 1. They haven't looked very good, and you're thinking like, okay, Jets kind of not really running away with this the way you should. This is an issue. And then all of a sudden, the Patriots come back and win the game. I mean, for the Jets, it really was like some of the throws Aaron Rodgers was making were really good. Like it's not an athleticism thing. Like the whole oh, he's washed. Like clearly he can still play. Like some of these plays he's making are still very good. But man, this team just feels off. I mean, they burned all of their timeouts in the first quarter because they can't get set, including to take a delay of. I mean, to me the biggest thing was the delay of game penalty late in the game. So if you missed the game, what happened was the Jets score a touchdown to go up 1 point late in the game, like 3 minutes left. So what do? Well, you go for 2 to try to make it a 3-point game, right? The Jets take a delay of game penalty there, which then puts them 2-7. They still go for 2 and don't get it. If they don't take that delay of game penalty, maybe they go up 3 points, and that completely changes things, because now it's, or am I doing, no, sorry, I said it wrong. It would have put them up 7 points. They're trying to go up 7 points. That would have put them up a clean 7, and then when the Patriots scored a touchdown, they would have just kicked the extra point and gone to overtime instead of going for 2, which put them up a clean 3 points. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. The Jets just seem so off, and they fired their head coach, and like, they just seem so disorganized. This team looked okay after 5 weeks, I thought. Like, not ideal. Definitely it was underwhelming, but like, I mean, you think about how far they've fallen from nearly beating the Vikings and being 2-3, still having a chance, and even destroying the Patriots earlier, which, like, you can't even say, well, different quarterback for the Patriots, because Drake May got injured very early on in this game, and Jacoby Brissett came in and looked like Jacoby Brissett. I mean, he made a couple nice plays at the end there. He wasn't dominant, still holds on to the ball too long, right? All of that stuff. And at this point, the Jets are 2-6. I guess you got to just roll with this. Part of me's wondering, like, do you consider to trade some of these pieces? Do you trade Aaron Rodgers here? I don't think you can. I don't think that there's a team that would, like, who's going to make that trade at this point? I don't know. Like, who's in playoff contention? Who would want a new quarterback? I think that's not going to happen, and I don't think he would want to go either. But like, do you start trading away some of these pieces? Do you trade Devontae Adams back away? I mean, as crazy as that sounds, like, might not be the worst move, because this is just, it's just a mess right now for the Jets. I mean, what a disaster. Again, got to give credit to the Patriots. Kyle wasn't here. Kyle would have probably done 8 minutes on Ramondre Stevenson if he was here or something. But, you know, hey, good for them. They got the win. But, yeah, I mean, the Patriots, same record as the Jets. That's crazy to me. That's I really thought the Jets were going to be something this year, and it's not happening. Next up, let's go to my team. Talked about Kyle's team. Got to talk about the Bucks, who, I did a 13-minute video kind of giving my more in-depth reactions, but kind of cliff notes here. Got to give credit to the Falcons. Falcons look legit. Like, if you can't pressure Kirk Cousins, you're going to have a hard time. It just is what it is. Kirk Cousins can't move around him as a ton. We all know that aspect about him, but, I mean, he is someone who can, pick you apart if he has time, and that's what he did. This team is so deep offensively with Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, like Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. There's so many pieces here that they can really make things happen. I mean, yeah, really good stuff here by Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to be a little disappointed by how their defense played. Tampa Bay was, I think, still able to make stuff happen offensively, but Atlanta had a couple the key plays, the turnovers, which were kind of the difference here. The reality is Baker, I mean, on first downs, I believe both of them were. You can't keep turning the ball over in the end zone. You can't keep turning the ball over in the red zone or in field goal range. Through 2 interceptions in field goal range, they lose by 5 points. I mean, that's kind of your game right there. Obviously, a whole lot changes if he doesn't throw those interceptions, and he made some nice throws too. He's in a tough spot. We all know that. Running game looked good, but yeah, very frustrating loss. Again, if you want to hear some more in-depth thoughts, you can check that out on this channel. Now let's go to the Ravens versus the Browns, as who would have thought Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns finding a way to win against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Winston's stat line looks incredible. 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did throw 3 dropped interceptions in this game, so that's going to help out. Got to assume that you can't keep doing that against good teams. But hey, Baltimore didn't take advantage of their opportunities and Cleveland did. There's something to that, right? But still, I mean, listen, I don't know how good this team is with Jameis, but like, this is part of, I remember preseason I picked the Browns to make the playoffs, and my thought was, if Watson doesn't take a step forward, then they can just go with Jameis Winston and they'll still have decent quarterback play. They made the playoffs last year with decent quarterback play. It makes sense. This is why it was so frustrating when they just let Watson stay out there. I do think the Browns could be very much still in it. Could they have had an extra win or 2 in this stretch had Winston been out there? I think so. Again, you look at their season, they lost to the Giants by a score. They lost to the Raiders by 4 points. They even lost to the Eagles by 4 points. And then the Bengals last week by 7, which was, Winston scored a touchdown late to make that a 7-point game. But still, I don't know how many of those games are flipped, but maybe 2 of those are flipped. And if that's the case, you're 4-2. So, like, there is talent here. I do wonder if they're in just a bit too much of a hole, just because they're 2-6. Like, they basically have to win out or come close to winning out if they're going to have a real chance here. The Ravens, I think they're fine. Disappointing loss. I thought Lamar played very well here. Ravens defense still is spotty, and they were without Marlon Humphrey. That has to be mentioned. Like that's tough for them. But yeah, losing a tight one again. If Kyle Hamilton makes the interception late, which the ball was thrown right to him, they almost certainly win. It's just a tough blow for Baltimore. Divisional matchups are weird. This is why dropping a game like that Raiders game is so tough, because again, if you're trying to get the 1 seed, you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who already have the tiebreaker on you and are now 3 games, I guess 2.5 games up, because they're 7-0 right here. So it's going to be tough, and even getting like the 2 seed, now the Bills are ahead of you, so some work to be done. I still think they're one of the best teams in football, though, so you have that going for you. That always helps. But yeah, I'm sure they're disappointed with the loss. Let's go to Green Bay, Jacksonville here. So a couple things to note. I mean, this is one of those games where there's so much going on during the 1 o'clock window. I had to kind of catch up later on tonight, figuring out what happened. I missed, I wasn't paying close attention live to it. It's one of those games I just looked up and was like, wait, Jacksonville's winning late in the game, like relatively late in the game. What's happening here? Very quickly, though, the Packers were able to take the lead. Kind of a big storyline here is Jordan Love gets injured in this one, and once again, they kind of don't miss a beat with Malik Willis. And like, Love apparently shouldn't be out for too long, but this Packers team is so weird to me, because like, okay, Jordan Love has been one of the most volatile quarterbacks in the league. Malik Willis, we know he can be volatile, and yet they just keep winning games. There's so much going right for this Packers team. You feel like if they can get good Jordan Love down the stretch, this could maybe be a championship contender. Is that crazy to say? Because, like, again, they have so many different pieces offensively. Josh Jacobs had a big day. He had a big run in this one. And their defense is just playing very well, although maybe the wrong time to say that, because obviously, Lawrence, who did make a couple mistakes in this one, threw for 300 yards on 32 attempts, so did have that going for him. But yeah, I mean, again, still some timely bad plays. It's tough for Lawrence. He kind of does have to do it all, it feels like. Once again, not quite able to make it happen. So, and now Christian Kirk's out for the year, so that doesn't help matters, certainly, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So yeah, again, the Packers team, hey, you're 6-2 right now, and it's crazy with that division. Like, it's still, no one's even really talking about them as like potentially winning it, even though they're 6-2, because you have the Lions, who are 6-1, the Vikings, who are 5-2, and the Bears, who nearly were 5-2, fall down to 4-3. But Green Bay could win the division. It's not out of the question. I'm buying into this Green Bay team a little bit, even with some again, volatility at the quarterback position. But hey, Malik Willis has played well. The Packers play the Lions next week. That's in a 4 o'clock window. That's huge game. That could definitely help determine who wins the division. So yeah, big one there. Next up, let's go Eagles-Bengals. When okay, I might have to be out on the Bengals now. I was the last person in the Bengals bandwagon right here. I still thought Burrow played all right, but this was not Burrow's best game by any means. And for someone who I said like a little over a week ago that I'd put him as number 1 in the MVP discussion. Lamar had that great game against Tampa Bay, and I said, okay, Lamar is probably number 1. And then this week, I definitely think even with Lamar not having his best day either, Lamar was better. Lamar is kind of more established himself in my mind as 1. No one else even has Burrow in the conversation because his team is losing. But yeah, I mean, not a great offensive day. But again, it's really a defensive issue. This Bengals team, once again, getting torched by Jalen Hurts, who, hey, turns out when he has A.J. Brown, he's pretty good. 236 yards on just 20 attempts, so well over 10 yards per attempt. And it was a big play to Devonta Smith this time. That was really the dagger, or at least kind of the key play. Saquon Barkley, another 100-yard rushing day on 4.9 yards per carry. So, I think it's fair to say maybe the reports of this Eagles, the demise of the Eagles was, what was it? I'm butchering the quote. Reports of the Philadelphia Eagles' demise were greatly exaggerated. That is the quote there. Yeah, and now to play the Jaguars next week. They're 5-2. Unfortunately for them, the Commanders won that crazy Hail Mary. But yeah, Philadelphia looking good. Their defense looking good. Like all of a sudden, this is a team that, I mean, as tough as it looked after that Tampa Bay loss, and even in that game, they showed flashes. A.J. Brown's an important piece to this team. He is, and he's able to, and they're able to get a big win here. So, good for them. Next up, Colts-Texans, which I am salty about this because I locked up the Texans -5.5. Texans win, but do not cover. First time that's happened to us this season in the Pick'em show. Yeah, I mean, Anthony Richardson is kind of the story of this game. He, again, goes 10 for 32. I mean, absolutely insane. There also was the story that came out when he, took himself out of the game. He was tired, so he had to take himself out of the game on a 3rd down and goal from like the 23 just to hand off anyway. But that was a weird play. You don't see that happen too often, which is kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised you don't see that more often. Like, you never see that from Lamar. Like, it's weird. It very rarely happens that you see a quarterback. I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback take himself out of the game like that. But again, he's running around so much. It does make some sense. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor played well for the Colts. Their receiving stats are very funny. Josh Downs had 4 catches for 109 yards. Their second leading receiver was Michael Pittman with 1 catch for 16 yards. No one else had multiple catches. They had, 6 players who had exactly 1 catch, except for Downs, who had 4 catches for over 100. So Josh Downs is being a real player, but yeah, still some mistakes. Luckily for them, they got a turnover late that allowed the Colts to take the lead, and the Colts kind of hung around in this game, right? Like, it felt like the Texans were kind of up, like 2 scores, but then the Colts would score. Texans up 2 scores, the Colts would score. Then the Colts get that defensive touchdown that gets them back in the lead. But Houston played well. Again, Diggs got banged up in this game. That's not ideal. But Houston finding ways to win games here. So they're also 6-2. They're also in that, like, could they be a real threat kind of area, winning games, doing some good stuff there. And, they get to play Anthony Richardson, who just, Anthony Richardson is just not playing winning football right now. Like that's just it. Like, I know he's a project. You still probably might as well just put him out there. But, like, it's a tough situation right now. It just is. Maybe he'll be a Josh Allen. But I don't know if Josh Allen was this bad when he first started. It's a rough spot. Next up, let's go Titans versus Lions. And this was a crazy stat line day. So the Detroit Lions win in a big way, 52-14. Okay, sure, that makes sense. This is a really good team. Jared Goff, if you don't know what Jared Goff's stats were, I'm gonna have you think of a passing yardage total you would assume when you hear 52-14, and if you hadn't heard it before, I guarantee that you guessed over 85 yards. Still 3 touchdowns in the game, 12 for 15 for 85 yards. Yeah, even Dave Montgomery had a passing touchdown in this one as well, and it wasn't like he played poorly or anything. It was just pretty much like every drive, the Lions started like deep in Tennessee territory. They also had a couple big special teams plays, including I believe it was a punt return touchdown, if I remember correctly. So, that's just kind of what it was, is they kept having this great field position and taking advantage. Like, Goff played well in his 15 pass attempts. That's all he had to do in this game, which was very bizarre. But again, for Detroit Lions, like, people kind of, again, I get why, but Lions fans kind of got annoyed at me when last week I said, like, no, I'm not really considering him MVP just quite yet, even though I do acknowledge, if you look at the past 3 weeks, he has been unbelievable. Not counting this week, the 3 weeks prior. This week he did his job, but the 3 weeks prior he was like amazing. And I think Lions fans were kind of annoyed at me, but this is it's really a compliment towards the team more than anything. It's not an insult towards Jared Goff. They just can win in so many different ways. And Goff doesn't have to be great. Jahmyr Gibbs has 127 yards, including he had a long touchdown here as well, which is part of how they were able to have this crazy stat line, right? They can win in so many different ways, and their defense played awesome in this game. Like, I know it's just Tennessee, but, like, okay, this is a dominant performance here. Everything is going well. for the Detroit Lions. Calvin Ridley had 140 yards. Give him credit for Tennessee. But yeah, as a whole, I don't know. I still think this team looks better with Mason Rudolph in there, but this was not a very good day by Tennessee. But this Detroit Lions team, man, I mean, they have to be favorites in the NFC. They just do, but playing Green Bay, we'll see if that changes. I'm still betting on Detroit to win that game. Next up is the Chargers versus the Saints, which, again, it's just a bummer the way the Saints season has gone. They actually went, they pulled Spencer Rattler in this game, went with Jake Haener. They're just so injured and now falling to 2-6. Kind of like what we talked about the Browns. Even if the Saints get everyone back, is that just too much of a hole, especially in the NFC where you're going to need 10 wins to make the playoffs this year. So they realistically have to finish the season 8-1. I don't know if that's going to happen. Again, Alvin Kamara made some nice plays in this one. Chris Olave was back, which was cool to see, and he made some nice plays in this one. But yeah, I mean, the story of this game, though, was, again, a very efficient Justin Herbert game once again. Ladd McConkey had over 100 yards and a pair of touchdowns, so getting him going is good. Jalen Reagor made, an incredible catch in this one. So, yeah, I mean, this Saints defense, which has also started to take a step back with some injuries that they have as well, and just kind of just taking a step back. I don't know. This might be Dennis Allen's last season. It feels like it could happen. But, yeah, again, a very big win for the Chargers, who are 4-3, big bounce back win after they probably felt like they could have won that Arizona game. Still being able to put wins on the board, very important. Next up, Bills Seahawks. This was I don't want to say it was over from the word go, because it wasn't. This was a game that was somewhat competitive for a bit. The Seahawks had an opportunity to take the lead when they got a Josh Allen interception. We finally have a Josh Allen interception on the year, which is, on a side note, the funniest thing has been listening to some of these podcasts and stuff where people are saying wow, Josh Allen done a much better job at protecting the football this year. And it's he really hasn't. He's really just been just as volatile as he ever is. He's been, just as reckless as he usually is. Just gotten he was really unlucky last year. This year he's been really lucky. Throws an interception here though. But the Seahawks get the ball to the 1 yard line, and then Geno Smith has his foot stepped on by the center when they're snapping the ball on the 4th and goal at the 1. That results in him falling down. The Bills then that was kind of it. The Bills really were able to kind of take advantage there. Again, I think the Bills win either way, but that was definitely a blow for the Seattle Seahawks. I didn't think that the Seahawks offense was awful. It kept making the bad mistake when it had to. I talked about the 4th and goal. There's also a bad interception in a bad spot. So that's an issue. And I mean, the running game was just completely shut down in this game. Kenneth Walker, 9 carries for 12 yards. Zach Charbonnet, 3 carries for 4 yards. That's it. Geno Smith was their leading rusher in this game with 16 yards. That's an issue right there. So, yeah, with that, it's hard to win games, and they also couldn't make the big play. But yeah, I mean, this Josh Allen thing. Josh Allen continues to be awesome. James Cook had a really big day. Ray Davis, who I think I kind of posed the question on the last podcast, could there be a running back controversy with Ray Davis? Ray Davis had a good game, but James Cook had a better game. So, him being a complimentary piece is still a positive. And then, again, a lot of offensive weapons here, doing some nice stuff. Khalil Shakir with over 100 yards. So, yeah, Bills continue to roll. Seahawks now 4-4. Still have a chance to, win the division. The division has weirdly been everyone's right around 500. So you have that. But, yeah, interesting stuff here. 3 games left. Let's go Chiefs Raiders. There was a moment here when it was is this going to happen again? Is this really going to happen? Are we going to do this again? If you didn't see the game, so it was one of those things where once again the Raiders were just kind of hanging around. It was a 4-point game in the 3rd quarter, and Mahomes, another one of these fluky interceptions, is tipped, ends up getting intercepted by the Raiders. They get the ball to the 1 yard line, and it's here we go. Raiders going to score a touchdown here, and it's going to be like Christmas all over again. Because on the Christmas Day game last year, the last time the Chiefs have lost, that's kind of what happened. There was back-to-back defensive touchdowns by the Raiders. Here, though, this Chiefs defense, I mean, unbelievable. Getting a stop there, they get a goal line stand. Raiders go for the 4th, don't get it. And because of that, it kind of allows the Chiefs they end up going up 2 scores shortly after, and that was kind of it. Again, You could sit here and say the Chiefs need to be blowing teams out. It's hard to blow out a division rival. Raiders kind of did what they could, but this Chiefs team is just better. They've now won, if you count playoffs, 13 straight games. I was curious, so I looked up the record. 21 is the record, including playoffs. So still a bit of work to be done there. They'd have to be 15-0 to tie that. But hey, I mean, I'm not gonna count them out. They keep winning games. Also, another situation where, I mean, this Raiders running game, non-existent. Alexander Mattison, 14 carries, 15 yards. So that's just not getting it done. I didn't even think Minshew played that poorly in this one. Did have a fumble late that hurt them. But, yeah, I mean, again, Mahomes, I still think is playing really well. His numbers aren't great. Only really Travis Kelce, receiving-wise, had a great day. He had 90 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Worthy was their next leading receiver with 37, but Chiefs are winning games, man, and that's all that matters. We can go to Vikings-Rams now. This was a weird game in that it was a really high-scoring game, or it wasn't a really high-scoring game, but it was a very offensive-minded game where the Rams win 30-20, but you look at the possessions, each team just had 8 possessions, or at least I know the Vikings only had 8 possessions. So scoring 20 points on 8 possessions, that's a good numbers right there. So it's not like otherworldly, but that's pretty good. You'll take that. So I don't really have too many issues offensively for the Vikings. I still think this offense is a bit too Justin Jefferson dependent. Jordan Addison at times looks like a 1B type receiver as opposed to just like a number 2 receiver. But like sometimes he just looks like a number 3 receiver, and sometimes they need a little bit more out of him. Not saying like that's a huge issue, but that's just something I have noticed. But really, the story of this game is just, again, Matthew Stafford. Every now and then, you never want to see Matthew Stafford on your schedule, because every now and then you just run into him when he's hot, and it's like, what are you going to do? And that's really this game. Did have the one interception, but like, man, was he making plays. And with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back, the Rams are 3-4, and like, yeah, I'm not counting them out in this playoff race at all. They play the Seahawks next week. Then they play the Dolphins, which we'll see. And both those two games are winnable and losable. And then the Patriots, their schedule is actually a little bit... They have a lot of competitive games down the stretch, so we'll see what they can do. And again, they kind of blew some games that they could have won earlier, like I think about the Bears loss earlier, the Packers loss, which was a close game. If they could have won a couple of those, even the Lions game in overtime, week 1, they could have won a couple more of those. They're in a better spot. But yeah, I think I said I was out on the Rams a few weeks ago when they were 1-4. Hey, I'm not fully out on them again. I bought back a little bit. Still not really that concerned with the Vikings. Again, defense has looked human these past couple of weeks, though. That is fair to mention. And finally, last, and I would say last but not least, but this might be least. I don't know. The Panthers and the Broncos here, which listen, Bryce Young looked better in this game. He did. I was going to be excited for him had he had a really good performance here early on, because right away, first drive, he was looking great. Kind of fell off a little bit. Wasn't able to do too much else until garbage time when he gets another touchdown. But hey, garbage time touchdowns still count, right? Still not. I mean, this Panthers team just isn't very good. I didn't even think Bo Nix played great in this game, and his stat line looks amazing. Like, he was still missing throws. He could have had a lot better of a stat line, to be honest. Still ends today with 284 yards and 3 touchdowns on 37 attempts. So, threw the ball a decent amount. Sutton with 100 yards. How about Adam Troutman with 85 yards? And that was kind of it for Denver, but they still did enough. They ran the ball okay. You want more. Javonte Williams, 17 carries for 44 yards. That's not really enough. Jaleel McLaughlin, though, had 5.9 yards per carry on his 8 carries, so maybe he'll get more playing time. I don't know. But, as a whole, again, big win for Denver, going up to 5-3. Got to rack up these wins, because now, I mean, tough next 3 games. The Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that's tough. Got to find a way to get a win in there out of those 3 games, I think. Atlanta might be their easiest shot, but who knows? Sometimes it gets a little weird. But, yeah, hey, winning games, that's always good. And finally, I want to talk about baseball a little bit. I'm disappointed, once again, Kyle wasn't here. I feel like I said that 18 times this podcast video, whatever you call it. But yeah, because I'm sure Kyle will be pumped up about the Yankees being 0-2. As am I. I am a Rays fan, so I'm rooting against the Yankees. Although, here's the weird thing about the Yankees, is that I don't feel they're in the World Series, but I think, there's this whole narrative with the Yankees and Dodgers both being in the World Series of, can you buy championships, right? That's what people kept saying. And the answer is always kind of, right? Like, obviously, just because you have a big payroll doesn't mean you're going to win the World Series. Just because you have the best team doesn't mean you're going to win the World Series, right? It takes a lot that goes into winning a World Series. But obviously, it is an advantage. I mean, the fact that the Yankees could go out and get a Juan Soto, the fact that the Dodgers could go out and get a Shohei Ohtani, those are moves that Oakland just can't make, right? So there is an advantage there. But I do feel like with the Yankees and Dodgers, you see the way these two teams are built, why one team has been consistently competing for World Series and why another team has been consistently underwhelming despite both of their massive payrolls. I feel like the Yankees, they're just like a funky team where they don't feel like a complete team. And I think about how, late in the game, in game 2, they have to pinch hit with their backup catcher. That's who they feel is their best option in that situation. Aaron Boone took a ton of criticism game 1 for his decision to put in a starting pitcher who hasn't pitched in a month in a high leverage situation. He deserved criticism for that. I didn't think that was a smart decision. And honestly, I didn't even love walking Mookie Betts there. It was second and third with, they're up by a run. So you're thinking, well, we have a base open. Let's walk the hot hitter and Betts to get to Freddie Freeman. But Freddie Freeman's great in those situations. And you also have to factor in that, like, it still does help to have a base open. If you're facing Mookie Betts, you can kind of pitch him however you want. If you walk him, it's not the end of the world. With Freeman, now you have to pitch to him. You can't walk him or that walks in a run. So I didn't love that. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, well, Aaron Boone's just not a great manager. Like, again, that's kind of the whole thing. It's just he's okay. There's things he does well. Clearly, he can motivate a team to get them to the World Series. Okay, that's not nothing. But like with the Yankees, there's just things that you kind of accept, like they're going to have to overcome. They're going to have to overcome not having a great manager, right? That's just an issue. And they're going to have to overcome and being in situations where, like, okay, I don't know who we go with here. Like, they're in these awkward situations. The Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani's gotten banged up. I don't think it's been announced yet if he'll play in game 3. But, like, even if they lose him, you trust the Dodgers that they can figure something out. Look at the Dodgers' insane list of starting pitching injuries they've had this season. They can kind of figure it out, right? They're just a more constructed team. Baseball, while you need your stars usually to win a World Series, you need depth as well. And that's kind of been the difference, I think, so far in 2 games. That, and, I mean, we have to talk about as well the Aaron Judge thing, which is just crazy. I mean, it is. It's just crazy. I've never seen a guy go from MVP to, like, legitimately multiple times we've seen teams walk Juan Soto to get to Aaron Judge, and it's the right strategy. It's usually working, right? And even in the attempt at a 9th inning rally in game 2, trying to find a way to win the game, like, Judge gave a really uncompetitive out. Like, you look at Jazz Chisholm, for example, he's struggling, but I feel like he's, like, not taking horrible at bats. Like, he had a hit in the 9th inning. Like, to me, it's sometimes you can't find a hole. Like, baseball's a fluky sport. Sometimes you get unlucky. Like, that's a part of it. Judge's at bats look bad, and that's just, it can all turn around on one swing, one pitch. We all know how it works, and maybe it'll turn around, and they need it to turn around because as of right now they're down 0-2. I also don't think the Yankees are dead yet. They have a good, favorable pitching matchup in game 3. Don't count out New York just yet. Obviously, if they blow that game, it's over. But I think that I'm not willing to, as a Yankees hater, I'm not willing to pop the champagne quite yet. But yeah, I mean, it's looking tough so far for the Yankees, but I don't think it's quite over. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So that's the Off the Sideline podcast. Let me know What did you think of this podcast in the comments below? Oh, wait, no, I can't do that outro. I have to do my podcast outro. So I guess I should do the plugs. First and foremost, of course, if you like audio-only podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, just search On the Sideline podcast. I will include this one on that as well. I will include the Off the Sideline podcast there. And to be clear, I say off the sideline, but that does not mean I am on the field. It just means I am neither on the field nor on the sideline. I think I may be in the bleachers or perhaps at a sports bar somewhere watching it. I don't know, but certainly not on the field. Don't want to give that impression. First, you can follow us on Twitter. Follow me at Jackson Kruger. Follow Kyle at by Kyle Grondin. And yeah, that is our show. Thank you again for watching or listening. I do appreciate it. And of course, as always, have a good one. Peace.